Question: what's the only thing that should be flipped in room 320? Answer: that's right, the lesson. Never, ever should you flip a water bottle. It's silly and can get you in some serious hot water. All right, but seriously, today's lesson is a review of some materials we've covered in class before, but it needs to be repeated. Today we're going to talk about fiction and nonfiction text structure. So, like always, get some paper, get something to write with, and we'll get started in a second. All right, so fictional text structures, should say text structure, not text features. Fictional text structure looks like the good old-fashioned plot chart that you've seen 1,000 times. We start off with the exposition and move our way through the resolution. We've talked about this a lot. However, in some fictional pieces, authors weave in events, and it almost sounds like nonfiction. For example, historical fiction. The events are based on actual things that have happened, but the author only uses those events to help tell a story. So what is nonfiction? To really get a grasp, we have to have a good definition of nonfiction. So nonfiction is writing in which the author claims to tell us about the real world, a real experience, a real person, an event, or a belief. Notice I didn't say it has to be real or true. It's what the author claims to be real or true. So if I'm writing a piece about Bigfoot, I'm purporting or writing what I believe is true, and maybe thinking or trying to convince you the same way. So, now that we have a working definition of nonfiction, we need to take a look at how authors organize their text. Remember, a piece of text might contain more than one of these structures. So let's look at the big five. First of all, what is text structure? Well, it's like the steel girders that we hang on information. Or, because it's the bones of the piece of nonfiction. It keeps it all together, gives it support. So our first one is descriptive. And as you can see from the picture and the anchor chart from the room, the text structure gives us the main idea and supporting details. So let's take a look at the example I've written. We set our boat in the water just as the sun was beginning to break the horizon. Half asleep, we both poured a cup of strong coffee from the thermos I borrowed from Dad. As we relaxed, we didn't say much and allowed the coffee to do its work. It took an hour or so before we had our first bite. My brother reeled like a madman, and I readied the net in case the monster put up too much of a fight. But as he kept reeling, the line suddenly became less taut or tight. Rats! Echoed around the lake. So you can see this piece had a main idea and supporting details. Okay? I talked about the fishing trip and then all the details from that fishing trip. So it falls into that descriptive text structure. Our second one is problem and solution. So in problem solution, the text structure presents a problem and the possible solutions to that problem. So take a look at the reading I have. There are many dogs ending up in pounds and shelters which are euthanized accidentally. Pets accidentally get out of yards and homes on a regular basis. These animals, in turn, find their way to already overcrowded shelters and pounds. Once there, every effort is made to contact the owner and reunite the family. Unfortunately, when an owner is not found, many animals are put down. By simply implanting a chip and having the pets wear an identification tag, many pets will find their way back to their owners. Please spend the small amount of money and have your pet chipped today. So you see from the anchor chart, our AP or author's purpose is persuasion. I'm persuading you to get your pets chipped, and I'm presenting the problem, animals are getting out and euthanized accidentally, and the solution, tags and chips. Okay, our next one is cause and effect. It's like problem solution, only we look for reasons as to why something has occurred. So let's take a look at this together. Mrs. Johnson's yard looked as if she had installed a ground-level swimming pool. She couldn't believe her eyes. Water was ankle deep, and it appeared to rise by the second. Scooping up her Pomeranian Max, she ran to her neighbor's house. Moments later, her longtime friend, Mr. Reeves, was assessing the situation and came up with some possible answers. "Well," he said, surveying the yard, "since I don't smell anything like sewer, I know it's not your line. I guess it's your sprinkler line. It could be your sprinkler line." Yes, it does sound like a problem solution, but Mr. Reeves didn't give her any ways to fix the issue. He just suggested what might have caused the problem. Be careful when you're reading problem solution, cause and effect. In this text structure, we look at the similarities and differences of objects. Authors try to separate the two items, but be careful and always read closely. There are many burger places in Houston folks have raved about lately. Excuse me, I'll fix that. One is Helen's Burgers on 7th Street. The other is Jeff's Burger Joint in the Spring Valley area. Having had a chance to visit both places, I found Jeff's to be a cut above the average burger place. While many people enjoy the quick service at Helen's, Jeff's Burgers offers a very thick Angus burger on a toasted honey wheat bun. Jeff's uses all of the natural toppings. Jeff's use of all the natural toppings makes the burgers a treat. But what really makes this a special place to visit is the thick shakes. Helen's may advertise good shakes, but Jeff's uses only local ice cream from the farms at Spring Branch Middle School. So you see in this review of two burger places that we get a compare and contrast of these two burger places, and of course Jeff's is better than Helen's, of course, but we can make that comparison. And if you have to use a Venn diagram like the one shown in the anchor chart to organize your thoughts, then do that, because then it helps understand what's being said. Our last nonfiction structure is sequence. This pattern shows the progression of things. Yes, it can be a how-to, but it can also show something that changes over time. The steps in the recipe are a sequence. You have to follow the order, especially when you are baking, or you will mess something up. Excuse me. But that's easy. I want to show you a different example of a sequence paragraph. The heavy rains from this past April can be traced to several factors. However, we can see the progression of events which may have caused the area's temperature to heat up and caused the deadly rains we've seen this past spring. First, we need to examine urban spread. More and more communities are being built where there once were forests and farmland. This land, which would have soaked up the runoff water, is no longer available to do that. Secondly, along with the urban spread, roads are built to accommodate these new communities. As the air heats from these roads, more and more rains are produced. So we see, you could say cause and effect, but there's a progression of things that happened. Now, this piece is not accurate. I'm not a climatologist, but you can see how it's an example of a sequence piece. There is an order to how things occur. Wait, you say. Really sounds kind of descriptive too, Mr. Walsdorf. Yes, that's true. But this is where you need to read closely and notice the text structure. So, some final thoughts. Whenever you're reading a piece of nonfiction, you need to slow down your reading and look for those clue words. You'll see those on the anchor charts if you go back and review this video. Look for those. They help. Be careful. Sometimes a paragraph may be a different text structure than the rest of the piece. So be careful of that. Finally, reread and make your notes in the margin. Use those graphic organizers in the margins to help you create what you need. So now what I want you to do, you've taken your notes, go back and write me a 1 paragraph, 5 to 7 sentences, not lines, summary of the lesson. Also, any questions that you might have. Include at least 2 things you learned today. All right? So that concludes our lesson on nonfiction text structure. I hope you enjoyed it. And again, have a great evening. I'll see you in the morning or afternoon. Bye now.